The final warning. The grand chamber of the Galactic Concordat stretched a kilometer into the artificial sky, its crystalline walls housing representatives from over 10,000 civilizations. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at its heart, her weathered hands gripping the podium as she faced the assembled delegates. Behind her, Earth's delegation sat in complete silence, an unusual sight in a chamber typically filled with heated debates and political maneuvering. For 3 centuries, Chen began, her voice carrying across the vast space. Humanity has served as the backbone of this concordat. We've mediated your conflicts, protected your trade routes, and bulleted your wars. She paused, her dark eyes scanning the chamber. Today, that ends. The silence that followed felt heavier than a neutron star. Supreme Arbiter Gylax, their tentacles shifting in clear agitation, leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, surely you're not suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything. Chen interrupted, something she'd never done in 20 years of service. I'm stating a fact. As of this moment, humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Concordat. The chamber erupted. Thousands of voices in hundreds of languages created a cacophony of protest. The Vorkaf delegation, their crystalline bodies flashing with angry pulses of red light, rose from their seats. The Meridian Collective's quantum-linked representatives flickered with shared outrage. Chen waited, unmoved. She'd expected this reaction. They all had. When Silax finally restored order, their voice carried an edge of concern. Ambassador, this is unprecedented. No founding species has ever withdrawn. The protocols don't even exist for such an action. Then we'll create them, Chen replied. Or rather, you will. We won't be here to help. This is about Proxima Colony, isn't it? The question came from Ambassador Rel of the Savati Empire, his feathered crest rising in agitation. One tragic incident. Tragic incident. Chen's composure cracked for the first time. 30,000 human colonists were massacred. We asked for help. We begged for intervention. This council spent 6 months debating the proper response protocols while our people died. She pulled up a holographic display, showing the faces of the dead. Children, families, scientists, farmers, all lost in what the council had dismissed as a regional security matter. But Proxima was just the final straw. Chen continued. For centuries, we've watched this council grow more corrupt, more interested in political games than actual governance. We warned you about the Nexus pirates gaining strength in the Outer Rim. You ignored us. We presented evidence of the Meridian Collective's illegal weapon research. You buried it. The Meridian representatives buzzed with indignation. But Chen pressed on. Every time we've tried to prevent a crisis, we've been outvoted, ignored, or actively opposed. And yet, when those same crises explode, who do you call? Who sends their fleets? Who sacrifices their soldiers? She gestured to the human delegation behind her. Look around this chamber. Count the empty seats of species that no longer exist because this council failed to act. Count the worlds lost to preventable conflicts. Count the billions dead because political convenience was more important than doing what's right. And what of your responsibilities? Silax demanded. The hyperspace lanes you maintain, the peacekeeping fleets you command, the technological exchanges your scientists oversee, all will be transferred to Concordat control within the next standard month, Chen replied. After that, humanity's borders will be closed. Our territories will be off-limits to all Concordat traffic. Our technology and resources will no longer be available for trade or sharing. The chamber erupted again, this time with genuine panic. Everyone knew how deeply human infrastructure was woven into the fabric of galactic civilization. The Concordat's fastest ships used human-designed quantum drives. Their most secure communications rely on human encryption protocols. Even their universal translation matrix was built on human linguistic algorithms. You would cripple galactic civilization over political disagreements. Ambassador Rel's voice shook with either rage or fear. No, Chen said softly. You've done that yourselves. We're simply refusing to prop up a system that's rotting from within." She straightened, squaring her shoulders. "For too long, we've been the galaxy's conscience, its peacekeepers, its problem solvers. We've sacrificed our own development, our own ambitions, to maintain your status quo. No more." She pressed a button on her podium, and across the galaxy, human ships began powering down their systems. Hyperspace lanes flickered as human monitoring stations went dark. Defense grids protecting dozens of worlds shifted to local control, many of them immediately failing without human oversight. "The galaxy you wake up to tomorrow will be different," Chen continued. "You'll have to solve your own problems, fight your own battles, face the consequences of your own decisions. Perhaps then, you'll understand what we've been trying to tell you all these years." She stepped back from the podium, and the entire human delegation rose as one. "This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a plea for attention. This is goodbye." As they walked toward the chamber's massive doors, Supreme Arbiter Dilax called out one last time. "And if we need you, if the galaxy faces a threat that requires humanity's help." Chen paused at the threshold, looking back over her shoulder. "Then you'd better hope we're still watching, and that we still care enough to answer." The doors sealed behind them with a final resonant boom. In the chamber, 10,000 species sat in stunned silence, realizing that the galaxy they knew had just changed forever. None of them could have guessed just how right they were. Above them, in orbit around the Concordat's capital world, human ships were already jumping to hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy that would soon learn the true cost of taking humanity for granted. Silent stars. The first sign that something was truly wrong came 3 days after humanity's departure. The Helios Meridian trade route, a bustling corridor that had served as the galaxy's commercial backbone for centuries, went dark. Without human maintenance crews and monitoring stations, the quantum beacons that guided ships through the treacherous gravitational eddies began to fail. Within hours, thousands of vessels were stranded, their crews watching helplessly as the safe passage they'd taken for granted dissolved into dangerous space. In the Concordat's Emergency Response Center, Director Venray of the Savati watched in horror as red alerts flooded his displays. His feathered crest lay flat against his skull, a sign of deep distress among his kind. "How many ships are affected?" he demanded. His assistant, a young Vorkath named Crystalline Heart, her crystalline body pulsing with anxiety, consulted the readings. "At least 3,000 vessels are currently stranded. Another 12,000 are stuck in port, unable to depart without safe passage confirmation." Venra clicked his beak in frustration. "Surely we can reactivate the beacons. The humans must have left maintenance protocols." "They did," Crystalline Heart confirmed. "But the systems require specific quantum-encrypted keys to access. Keys that were stored in human databases." She hesitated. "Databases that no longer respond to our queries." The implications were staggering. The Helios Meridian route was just one of hundreds that humanity had maintained. As reports continued to pour in, it became clear that the humans hadn't just withdrawn. They'd systematically locked down every piece of infrastructure they'd ever built or maintained. In the Outer Rim, the situation was even worse. The Nexus pirates, long held in check by human patrol fleets, sensed opportunity. Their raids, once sporadic and cautious, became bold and frequent. The Vorkath mining colonies, suddenly without their human-provided defense systems, were particularly vulnerable. "This is exactly what they warned us about," muttered Crystalline Heart, watching footage of a pirate fleet targeting a civilian transport. Ambassador Chen spoke of this very threat in the Council 3 cycles ago. Venra couldn't argue. He remembered that session clearly, remembered dismissing Chen's concerns as human paranoia. Now, watching the galaxy unravel in real time, he wondered how many other warnings they should have heeded. The crisis spread like a virus through the interconnected systems of galactic civilization. The Universal Translation Matrix, a triumph of human linguistic engineering, began to degrade. Without regular updates from Earth's vast language databases, The subtle nuances of communication between species started to fail. Diplomatic meetings descended into confusion. Trade negotiations collapsed over misunderstandings. In the Concordat chamber, now operating around the clock to handle the mounting crisis, Supreme Arbiter Gylax faced the assembled representatives. "We must adapt," they insisted, their tentacles writhing with determination. "Humanity has chosen isolation, but we are not helpless. We built this civilization together." But even as they spoke, more systems were failing. The quantum drives that powered the fastest ships in the galaxy, human technology that had never been fully shared, began to show signs of instability. Without access to Earth's maintenance protocols, ship captains were forced to reduce their speeds, afraid of catastrophic drive failures. The Meridian Collective, their quantum-linked consciousness, usually a model of unity, was fracturing under the strain. "We cannot maintain our neural networks without the processing cores," their primary node announced. "Human quantum computing was integral to our collective consciousness." "Then break your link," suggested Ambassador Rel, his own feathers ragged from sleepless cycles. "Return to individual consciousness until we can develop alternatives." "You don't understand." The Meridian representative flickered in distress. "Our species evolved with the link. We've been connected for generations. To break it now." They didn't finish the thought. They didn't have to. But it was in the military sector that humanity's absence was felt most keenly. The Concordat's Joint Defense Forces had relied heavily on human tactical systems, human weapons technology, and human strategic expertise. As those systems went offline, old tensions began to resurface. The Savati Empire, sensing weakness, began moving forces into disputed territories. The Vorkath Confederation, their crystalline bodies resonating with ancient grievances, responded by activating long-dormant weapon platforms. Without human mediators to defuse the situation, military confrontation seemed inevitable. In his office overlooking the capital's endless spires, Venra received a priority message from his government. "They want to know if we can negotiate with Earth," he told Crystalline Heart. "They're willing to offer concessions." "Have you tried contacting them?" she asked. Venra gestured to his communication panel. "Every channel we used to use is dead. The humans aren't just ignoring us. They've completely isolated themselves. No signals in or out of their space. No response to diplomatic inquiries. It's as if they've built a wall between themselves and the rest of the galaxy." "Perhaps that was their intent," Crystalline Heart suggested, her crystalline form shifting thoughtfully. "To force us to face our dependencies, to make us confront our own failures. If so, they've succeeded." Venra moved to his window, watching ships crawl through space at sublight speeds, their quantum drives dormant. But at what cost? The galaxy needed them. "No," Crystalline Heart corrected quietly. "We took advantage of them. There's a difference." As if to punctuate her words, another alert flashed across their screens. The Nexus pirates had just seized their largest prize yet. A Meridian colony ship, its defensive systems offline, its passengers at the mercy of raiders who had long ago lost any pretense of mercy. The galaxy was learning a harsh lesson. Humanity hadn't just been participating in galactic civilization. They had been holding it together. And now, in their absence, everything they had warned about, everything they had tried to prevent, was coming to pass. In the darkness between the stars, ships limped through unprotected space, their crews watching sensor readings with newfound anxiety. In government offices across 1,000 worlds, leaders faced problems they'd always relied on humanity to solve. And in the void where Earth's influence had once reached, chaos was spreading, unopposed and unchecked. The age of human guidance was over. The age of consequences had begun. The awakening storm. The Sol system had changed. Where once Earth's orbital spaces had been filled with diplomatic vessels and trading ships from 1,000 worlds, now massive defense platforms hung in silent vigil. The shipyards of Mars, previously dedicated to building exploration vessels and civilian transports, now produced something altogether different. Admiral Helena Torres stood at the observation deck of the Neptune Command Station, watching the latest Titan-class warship emerge from the Martian shipyards. Its hull was unlike anything humanity had built before, darker than space itself, absorbing rather than reflecting light, bristling with weapon systems that had been theoretical just months ago. "Status report," she commanded, not turning from the view. Her XO, Commander James Chen, son of the ambassador who had delivered humanity's farewell to the galaxy, consulted his quantum tablet. "Project Prometheus is ahead of schedule. The defense grid is at 98% coverage. The Titan fleet will reach full strength within 2 months, and the Lazarus Protocol ready for implementation at your command." Torres nodded slowly. For centuries, humanity had held back, sharing only a fraction of their technological capabilities with the galaxy. It had been a conscious choice. They hadn't wanted to dominate, only to help guide and protect. Now, freed from those self-imposed restrictions, human innovation was advancing at an exponential rate. "Any word from beyond the barrier?" she asked. "The quantum sensors are picking up significant disturbances," Chen reported. "The Savati-Vorkath conflict has escalated to full-scale war. The Meridian Collective is experiencing widespread neural degradation. The Nexus pirates have seized control of 3 major trade hubs." Torres finally turned from the window. "Casualties. Conservative estimates suggest over 2 billion sentients dead or displaced in the past month alone." The number hung in the air between them. 2 billion lives lost because the Concordat couldn't maintain the peace humanity had helped establish for centuries. Some would call it vindication of their decision to withdraw. Torres wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. In the depths of Luna's secured facilities, Dr. Sarah Wong led a very different kind of transformation. The quantum computing labs, once dedicated to maintaining the galaxy's translation and navigation systems, now pushed the boundaries of what was possible. "The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to refine existing technology," she explained to the assembled team. "Without the need to make our advances compatible with Concordat systems, we could pursue entirely new directions." The holographic display showed their latest achievement, a quantum network that operated on principles that would have seemed like magic to their former allies. It didn't just process information. It existed in a state of perpetual quantum superposition, simultaneously calculating every possible outcome of every possible scenario. "With this," Wong continued, "we can predict crisis points before they occur, model solutions to problems that don't exist yet, and coordinate our entire defense network with perfect efficiency." One of her colleagues, Dr. Marcus Ibrahim, spoke up. "Are we sure about this direction? The level of technological advancement we're pursuing, it's going to make us something very different from what we were." "We're already something different," Wong replied softly. "The moment we walked away from the galaxy, we chose this path." The transformation wasn't limited to technology. Earth itself was changing. Cities that had once been showcases of interstellar cooperation now turned inward, their architecture evolving to reflect humanity's new isolation. The massive diplomatic quarters in New Geneva stood empty, their halls silent testimonies to abandoned connections. But it was in the minds and hearts of humanity that the greatest change was taking place. The species that had once dedicated itself to shepherding galactic civilization was becoming something else, something more focused, more unified, more purposeful. In orbit around Jupiter, the massive form of the Sentinel array took shape. Unlike the defensive installations near Earth, this was something entirely new, a facility dedicated to observing and analyzing every corner of the galaxy. Through its quantum sensors, humanity watched as their former allies struggled with the chaos they had warned them about. They watched as the Nexus pirates grew bolder, their raids pushing deeper into civilized space. They watched as the Savati Empire's expansion sparked desperate alliances among smaller species. They watched as the Meridian Collective's neural networks continued to degrade, driving entire populations into confusion and panic. And they recorded everything. In her private quarters aboard the Neptune Command Station, Admiral Torres reviewed the latest reports. The Titan fleet was nearly complete. The quantum defense network was operating at full capacity. The Lazarus protocol stood ready. "We're receiving another transmission from the Concordat," Chen reported. "They're requesting, no, begging for help. The situation in the core worlds has become critical." Torres was silent for a long moment. "Record it with the others." "Admiral." Chen hesitated. "Some of the reports. The death toll is still rising. The Nexus pirates have started targeting civilian habitats. The Vorkath are using weapons that we specifically warned them would be catastrophic." "I know." Torres turned back to the window, watching as another Titan-class ship took its position in the defense grid. "But we made our decision. We'll stick to the plan. And if they destroy themselves before we're ready, then they'll have proved exactly why we needed to do this." Torres' expression was unreadable. Sometimes, the only way to save something is to let it break first. In the quantum labs beneath Luna's surface, in the shipyards of Mars, in the command centers and research facilities throughout the Sol system, humanity continued its transformation. They were no longer the peacekeepers of the galaxy, no longer its conscience or its guides. They were becoming something else entirely, something that would either save the galaxy or watch it burn. And as the chaos beyond their borders continued to spread, as ancient hatreds erupted into new conflicts and old alliances crumbled into dust, humanity waited. They watched. They prepared. The galaxy had never truly understood what humanity was capable of. Soon, they would find out. Breaking point. The Concordat's emergency session had been running for 6 straight days. The Grand Chamber, once a symbol of unity and cooperation, now resembled a war room. Holographic displays showed spreading conflict zones across the galaxy, each one a testament to the growing catastrophe. Supreme Arbiter Xylax's tentacles had lost their usual luster, their color faded from exhaustion. "The Savati advance cannot be contained," they announced to the assembled representatives. 3 more systems fell yesterday. The Vorkath response has been. They paused, searching for a diplomatic term. "Apocalyptic." Ambassador Rel finished, his feathers permanently flattened against his skull. "They're using quantum destabilization weapons. Entire planets are being torn apart at the atomic level." The chamber erupted in shouts and accusations. The Meridian Collective's representatives, their neural networks now operating at barely 30% efficiency, flickered erratically with distress. "The pirates have seized control of the Helios sector," they reported, their once unified voice now fragmented and discordant. "Our colonies there. We've lost contact with millions of our people." In the 6 months since humanity's departure, the galaxy had descended into chaos. Without human mediators, ancient rivalries had erupted into open warfare. Without human technology maintaining crucial infrastructure, entire sectors had fallen into darkness. Without human peacekeepers patrolling the trade routes, civilization itself was beginning to unravel. The Vorkath ambassador, their crystalline form cracked from stress, projected images of their homeworld's defense grid failing. "The pirates are targeting our core systems now. We need immediate assistance." "With what ships?" Rel demanded. "Half our fleet is stranded in dock because we can't maintain the quantum drives. The other half is trying to contain the Savati expansion. Perhaps if you hadn't been so quick to abandon our worlds." The Vorkath began. "Enough." Kylax's voice cut through the arguing. "This is exactly what brought us to this point. Our inability to work together, to see beyond our immediate interests." They gestured to the strategic displays. "Look at what we've become. Look at what we've allowed to happen." The images told a devastating story. The Nexus pirates, once a minor annoyance confined to the outer rim, now controlled nearly a quarter of known space. The Savati Empire's aggressive expansion had triggered a chain reaction of defensive wars and desperate alliances. The Meridian Collective, their neural networks degrading faster than anyone had predicted, were facing potential extinction as a unified consciousness. "Has there been any response from Earth?" someone asked. though everyone knew the answer. Nothing, Rel replied quietly. Their borders remain sealed, their communications channels silent. The quantum barrier around their space is impenetrable. But that wasn't entirely true. Strange reports had begun filtering in from the edges of human space. Ships glimpsed in the darkness between stars, larger and more advanced than anything humanity had previously fielded. Mysterious energy signatures that defied analysis. Some claimed to have seen massive structures taking shape in the void, visible for a moment before disappearing behind whatever shield technology the humans were using. In a secure chamber deep within the Concordat's archives, a small group had gathered. Representatives from the oldest and most powerful civilizations, those who remembered what humanity had been like when they first joined the galactic community. "They're planning something," insisted Rel, who had called the meeting. "Think about it. The humans never do anything without a purpose. Their withdrawal, their silence. It's all part of some larger strategy." "To what end?" asked the Meridian Prime Node, its neural patterns barely holding together. "To watch us destroy ourselves." "Perhaps that's exactly it," suggested an ancient Vorkath elder, their crystalline form bearing the weight of centuries. "Perhaps they're letting us experience the consequences they warn us about, teaching us a lesson in the harshest possible way. A lesson that's cost billions of lives," Rel pointed out. "How many more would have been lost if we had continued as we were?" the elder countered. "How many warnings did we ignore? How many crises did we allow to fester because we knew the humans would eventually solve them for us?" Before anyone could respond, an aide burst into the chamber, their protocol overrides indicating an Omega-level emergency. "The Savati, they've launched an attack on the Meridian core worlds. They're using some kind of temporal weapon." The implications hit like a physical blow. Temporal weapons had been banned for millennia. Their use could tear holes in the fabric of space-time itself. How did they even acquire such technology? The Meridian Prime Node demanded, their flickering form showing pure terror. "They found it in an abandoned human research facility," the aide reported. "One of many they've been raiding since the withdrawal. They don't fully understand how it works, but they're using it anyway." In that moment, the true scope of humanity's absence became clear. It wasn't just their active presence that had maintained peace. It was their careful stewardship of advanced technology, their understanding of which innovations could be safely shared and which needed to be contained. The Concordat chamber erupted into chaos as the news spread. The Meridian representatives, faced with the possible erasure of their entire civilization from time itself, began emergency shutdown procedures of their neural networks. The Vorkath delegation, their crystalline bodies resonating with fury, declared total war on the Savati Empire. Supreme Arbiter Godzilax, watching their life's work crumble around them, made one final attempt to reach Earth. Standing before the full assembly, they'd broadcast on every known frequency. "To the people of Earth, we understand now. We see what you tried to tell us. The galaxy is falling apart without you. Not because we are incapable, but because we never learned to be capable. We relied on you to solve our problems, to fight our battles, to save us from ourselves. If you can hear this, if you still care at all about the civilization we built together, help us. Not for our sake, but for the sake of billions of innocent lives caught in the chaos we created." The message went out into the void, crossing the quantum barrier that separated human space from the rest of the galaxy. And for the first time in 6 months, something happened. In the darkness between the stars, sensors detected movement. Massive ships, unlike anything ever seen before, began emerging from the quantum barrier. The galaxy was about to discover exactly what humanity had been doing during their isolation, and whether they had emerged to save civilization, or to end it. The price of pride. They emerged from quantum space like gods of ancient myth, massive vessels that seemed to bend reality around them, their hulls darker than the void itself. The human fleet materialized simultaneously across the galaxy, appearing at every major conflict zone, every strategic checkpoint, every battlefield where civilizations tore at each other's throats. Admiral Helena Torres stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's new flagship, watching tactical displays show her fleet taking position around the Meridian core worlds. The Savati temporal weapon was visible on their sensors, a crude, dangerous thing that never should have been activated. All ships in position, Commander Chen reported. The Lazarus protocol is ready. Torres nodded slowly. Begin transmission. Across the galaxy, on every frequency, in every language, using translation protocols far more advanced than anything they'd previously shared, humanity spoke with one voice. To all civilizations of the Galactic Concordat, for centuries we guided you. For centuries we protected you. For centuries we watched you ignore every warning, dismiss every concern, and take our aid for granted. 6 months ago, we withdrew to show you the consequences of your actions. Now we return to show you something else entirely. In orbit around the Meridian core worlds, the Prometheus's quantum fields activated. The Savati temporal weapon, caught in mid-discharge, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased so completely that reality itself forgot it had ever been there. Near the Vorkat homeworld, another human fleet emerged. The Nexus pirate armada approaching the planet found their weapons suddenly inoperable, their ships held in stasis by forces they couldn't comprehend. What you are witnessing, Torres' transmission continued, is the technology we chose not to share. The advancements we kept to ourselves because we knew you weren't ready, because you had not learned the responsibility that comes with such power. In the Concordat chamber, the assembled representatives watched in awe as humanity's true capabilities were revealed. Ships that could rewrite local physics, weapons that could erase mistakes from time itself, defense systems that made entire sectors of space simply immune to conflict. Our withdrawal was not an abandonment, Torres explained. It was an intervention. You had become dependent on us to solve your problems, to fight your battles, to clean up your mistakes. That dependence was destroying you, preventing you from growing, from learning, from becoming what you could be. The Savati fleet, their temporal weapon gone, found themselves facing a choice: stand down or be rendered irrelevant to the course of history. The Nexus pirates, their power suddenly broken, discovered that survival required immediate surrender. We return now not as your protectors, not as your peacekeepers, but as your equals. We will not solve your problems for you. We will not fight your battles. But we will ensure that those battles do not destroy the innocent, that your conflicts do not tear reality apart, that your choices do not doom entire species to extinction. In the quantum labs beneath Luna, Dr. Sarah Wong activated the final phase of the Lazarus protocol. Across the galaxy, broken systems began to heal. The Meridian neural networks, degraded almost to the point of collapse, found themselves restored, not to their former state of dependent connectivity, but to something new, something self-sustaining. This is the gift we offer, Torres continued. Not protection, but the chance to protect yourselves. Not solutions, but the opportunity to solve your own problems. Not peace imposed from outside, but the tools to forge your own lasting peace. The Prometheus descended through the quantum barrier around the Concordat capital world. In person, it was even more impressive. A ship that represented not just advanced technology, but a fundamental shift in what was possible. Admiral Torres transported directly into the Concordat chamber, appearing before the assembled representatives. In person, she cut an imposing figure, a human who had overseen the greatest transformation in her species' history. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, she announced to the silent chamber. The old way, of dependence, of proxy wars, of technological hoarding and political games, that path leads to destruction. We've shown you that. But there is another way. She gestured, and a holographic display filled the chamber, showing not just the galaxy as it was, but as it could be. Civilizations working together not because they had to, but because they chose to. Species helping each other not out of obligation, but out of understanding. We offer you partnership, Torres said. Real partnership between equals. We will share our advancements not as gifts from above, but as tools for mutual growth. We will help you develop your own quantum technologies, your own temporal understanding, your own ways of shaping reality. But you must prove you can handle such power responsibly. Supreme Arbiter Gigalax, their tentacles now restored to their former luster, asked the question everyone was thinking. And if we fail? Taurus' expression was firm but not unkind. Then we will continue to ensure that your failures do not doom the innocent. We will continue to prevent extinction-level events. But we will not save you from the consequences of your choices. Those you must face yourselves. The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't offering to return things to the way they were. They were offering something far more challenging and far more valuable. The chance to grow, to learn, to become something greater. The choice is yours, Taurus concluded. Continue fighting among yourselves, scrambling for power and territory, and we will ensure your conflicts don't destroy everything. Or join us in building something new, a galaxy where every species reaches its full potential, where cooperation comes from strength rather than weakness, where the wonders of the universe are explored by all. As she finished speaking, the Prometheus's quantum fields pulsed once, and across the galaxy, every weapon of mass destruction, every planet-killing device, every reality-warping technology simply ceased to exist. It wasn't disarmament, it was evolution. We will give you time to decide, Taurus said. Time to prove what you can become. We withdraw again now, not in abandonment, but in trust. Show us who you truly are. With that, she vanished, the human fleets pulling back to their borders. But this time, they left something behind, hope and a challenge. The galaxy would never be the same. In the silence of the Concordat chamber, Supreme Arbiter Gigalax spoke quietly. They'd never left to punish us. They left to teach us. And now they return not as our saviors, but as our inspiration.